Top 10 expansions.
Cheer.
Take crap. Take.
What?
3, 2, 1, go.
Hello and welcome to the Brothers Murph, where there's no games, just stupid people. This game is red. Go subscribe now. Go subscribe now.
Indeed.
No games, just dumb. Just dumb
people.
Welcome to another top 10, my friends.
Hello, everybody. Yes, top
Hello.
10. What top 10 are we doing today, Mikey?
We're going to do top 10 essential expansions.
Now, this is kind of a weird thing. So if you watched the video,
These
from a
are
while
all
ago,
essential.
which will be tagged in the top here. Mike and I kind of disagree on what the word essential means
The people
in
have
terms
spoken,
of.
and one of us is wrong. And it ain't me.
I'm pretty sure it's about 50-50. But nonetheless, go watch that video if you're curious what we talk about. Yes, this is top 10 essential expansions or just our favorite expansions. Because expansions are a cool thing about board games. And there's expansions in video games and all sorts of stuff. But like, I feel like expansions are a massive part of board games. And I feel like a lot of people, and you can put this down in the comments below whether or not you're one of these people, get more excited for expansion of a game they already love than they do for a new game. Real quick, where do you sit on that, do you think?
I agree. Like, if there's a Kickstarter or something, for example, for an expansion, I'm much more likely to back it because there is a known quality there. I know that this main thing is good. That leads me to believe that this other thing will also be good versus like, who knows what this game may provide.
I think I'm about 50-50 in terms of like excited for an expansion for a game I already love or just a whole new game. I think I used to be more in the expansion category and now I'm starting just to move into the new game category. But that's because I'm all cult of the new. Yes. Nonetheless, but I love expansions.
I'm much more quick to get instant hyped over an expansion.
That's fair.
Like there might be like, oh, new Stonemaier game. I'll be like, yo, what I need to know about it right now.
Yeah.
But not every company or whatever will do that. But if there's an expansion, I'm just like, I want to know all the details. Give them to me right now into my face. Tell me right now.
Yeah. So this is our top 10 essential expansions, best expansions. And I think we should just go ahead and get into it.
Let's dive right in with number 10.
All right, so our number 10, we honestly probably would be a little bit higher, except for it's kind of got a little bit of a caveat, and that is Evolution Climate.
Which is one of our favorite
expansions, yes. But Evolution Climate is also just a standalone game. You could have gotten the Climate expansion for Evolution and made it, which is what we did, but now they just offer Climate as its own game. And frankly, you should play that version of Evolution. It's
Climate.
Incredible. It's
so
amazing. Good. Evolution base game is great, but it's way, way better with Climate. So go ahead and play Climate. So this as just an expansion might have actually been higher, but we decided to put it at 10 because of the fact that like, it's this kind of weird zone where it's kind of its own game at this point.
But that shows how strong of an expansion it is because it just is.
I think when they were making the expansion, there was kind of like, we should have just done this.
We're just going to do that now.
Yeah,
and there have been a lot of examples of that through time where it's been such an impactful thing that all future printings of the game will just have this element into it. We heard like Lords of Waterdeep, which we still haven't tried, has some expansion stuff that is
I think now the reprints have just one of the expansions thrown in.
Yeah, so this is another one of those instances. Climate gives you a couple things. It gives you some more cards.
Of course.
That are specific to climate. They're adaptations help you adapt to the climate.
Like heavy
which is
fur.
Cool. A heavy fur or cooling frills and things. And then they give you a climate tracker, which you can play cards, normally play cards down to the watering hole to potentially have food be available. But now there's the added bit of things that may increase or decrease the temperature on the planet.
Yes, indeed.
And if the temperature starts getting warmer, maybe more food just naturally occurs because there's a lot of growth, which is what happens in heating periods. Photosynthesize happening. And so there might be more food, but then there comes a risk of really big animals struggle in the heat
because it's hot.
Your body, if your body size is too big, you're going to struggle. So you might need some adaptations to help you deal with getting rid of the heat, which animals have to deal with. Same thing on the cold. There might not be as much natural food around. You might need things to help keep you warm and insulated because small animals struggle with the cold.
Exactly.
And it's just like,
and it's such an added layer of strategy as well. Because if you're a carnivore, because you were holding, it's like, why would you ever push it towards the cold? Because you get less food. But if you're a carnivore, you're eating the other animals, so you might want to keep pushing it towards the cold so that people are dying, and it adds a little bit of chaos. And then there's climate events like meteors or like volcanoes, and it's just only play it with Climate. It's incredible.
so fun.
I loved Evolution on its own. I love it with Climate. Climate's a number 10. It's kind of a standalone game, but nonetheless, it ultimately is an expansion, and we love it. And that's our number 10.
Boom. Let's go ahead and jump into number 9. Number 9, Nick, if you're ready, might
What is it?
be our first expansion ever. I would imagine it is.
It probably was our first expansion ever.
It's definitely the first one I ever played because I played with it before I even knew it was an expansion. I just thought it was the game.
That's true.
We're talking about On the Brink, which is the first expansion for Pandemic.
Yes, indeed.
So when we were
It probably
first
was the first
introduced
expansion
to
we
Pandemic, we were playing with On the Brink stuff I didn't know at the time. Because that's how we played. We wanted it. So when we first got Pandemic, we got On the Brink pretty quickly.
Yeah, pretty
if
much
not
right
right
away,
away. And we never have looked back. Now we both
never
played
not
base
played with it.
Pandemic before, but On the Brink adds a couple things. Adds you a few more roles,
Which
you
is
can play
always
as.
nice.
Super interesting, and they're really cool roles.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really interesting ones that are some of my favorites.
Yeah.
And it also gives you this virulent strain.
Yes.
That the first time an epidemic happens, you look at what disease has most kind of control over the world, and that becomes your virulent strain. And from that point on, that virus is going to get harder to get rid
It's
of.
worse and worse and worse.
Because there's things that just add, if you're adding a cube of that color, you have to add 2 cubes now.
Yeah.
Or if an outbreak happens, 2 outbreaks happen. There's just
Yeah.
these ongoing effects that just make it
that only
much
affect
harder to survive.
that strain
Yeah.
of a virus, and it gets
You might need more cards to
really
cure it.
hard because it's always whatever one is most prominent in the world. So that one is presumably
It's already
the
your biggest
worst one
problem.
already,
Yeah.
and then it just gets worse. And there are certain violent strain cards that are worse than others, but some are like absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
Absolutely brutal.
And it's just fun. It took that game to the next level.
Yeah.
Like if you're it's already a challenging game, and if you get to it, you're like, we're pretty good at this game. Get On the Brink. It will add.
Well, then there's also the
another
mutation expansion.
layer to
you
it.
play the mutated
Yes.
disease, which you don't play with very
Which we
much.
should play more, but yeah.
But no, it's also fun, and then just the new roles. I mean, it's one of those games where it's like, just give us new roles. Like honestly, there's a little pack that was just new roles. I'd get it because we just randomly assign the roles anyway, and each game you kind of have to play differently depending on what role you're playing.
That's the best thing we
so
ever did for that
having
game.
more roles is because we used to always cherry pick our roles.
We used to cherry pick, and we got really good with a certain
had a certain
set of characters.
yeah.
And then it kind of got boring, and we realized we haven't even tried certain characters.
Yeah.
Let's just start randomizing it, and it became so much more fun because now you have to adapt.
Yes.
So now you get a little bit more variability with the On the Brink expansion,
Yeah.
and with that virulent strain, just adds another level of fun. It's just
great.
Awesome.
It's great.
It's really cool. So On the Brink is our number 9. It was probably the first expansion we've ever had. We
Guarantee
still
it
have it
was.
to
Yeah.
this day.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll ever get rid of it.
No.
Because I love playing with it's a fact. If we're gonna play, it's with On the Brink. There's no question.
Yeah,
about
and I if I'm teaching new people, which to me is one of the big things of like an essential expansion, is you have to be able to teach it to new people.
Totally
And
agree,
like
yeah.
you could just throw it in, no problem. They would like we played with On the Brink in the beginning. You had no idea.
Didn't know
So
it
it's like
wasn't
if you have
the
no
game.
idea, it's a great expansion. So yeah, On the Brink is our number 9.
Sweet. Let's jump into number 8.
Let's do it. Number 8. This is our big expansion. This is probably the
Some
biggest
expansions
expansion.
give a little, some give a lot.
There'll be some small expansions. There'll be some massive expansions. This expansion is almost as much as the base game.
Basically doubles it.
And this is Orlan Invasion. Invasion is a great expansion. We also get to throw in Trade and Intrigue in here, which is another
A
Orlan
little bit
expansion.
of kind of both, but
The
Invasion is
Intrigue's
the-
not great, but the trade is amazing.
Yeah.
But Orlan Invasion is a big expansion.
much.
It's again, it basically, you were talking about this beforehand, it basically doubles the game.
Yeah.
Because not only does it add a couple more different competitive modes, there's like a 2-player mode where it's like, this is great if you're playing with just 2 people.
Yep.
There are, I think, 3 different
solo
solo
models.
variants in there. And then on top of that, there is Orlan Invasion, which is the big expansion inside, and that makes Orlan cooperative. And if you know anything about us, seen any of our other listeners here talk about games, we prefer Orlan with Invasion, and we prefer to play it co-op. It's great competitive. I would still gladly play it in competitive. Although, we were also talking about this, I don't think I'd want to play just base vanilla competitive.
I don't want to
Orlan
at least
anymore.
the trade.
Yeah, because
At
the
least.
trade expansion
It's a
makes it
big
way more
improvement.
interesting. Yeah,
Big improvement.
But it's like the co-op version of Orlan is so much fun. It is incredibly
The thing
fun.
I like about Invasion is that they really it seems like, did everything they could to make Orleans as playable as possible.
Yeah.
You like a co-op?
Great.
Bam! You want to play just 2-player? It's optimized for 2-player. You want a solo? I'm going to give you 3 separate challenges, so there's no reason on any given day to not play Orleans.
They really
You know
do.
what I
They're
mean?
like,
And I really,
you should play this every day.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that they're
Yeah.
like, we got you covered. We got you no matter what.
They have supported that game. Yeah.
Yeah, they really have. So Invasion is just awesome because we would play without co-op, like you said, but like it's so fun to play co-op.
Yeah, 'cause
and
it's
there's
so hard.
much and it's so difficult. And I'm like, if that was all it was, this still might make the list. But because you have all those other things as well,
Yeah.
it's kind of a no-brainer. Like, of course.
And I played the
Invasion's on
solo
list.
variant. The solo versions are super fun and really hard, which is great. It's an incredible expansion. But this is like, this like doubles the game. I mean, really doubles the game. At this point, it adds like 5 separate ways to play the game. It's incredible. It
Super
really
cool.
is.
It
Yeah.
just gives you a ton of stuff, which also helps make sense of the price because it's not cheap. But
No.
at least you get a lot.
Yeah, you get a lot out
It's
of
almost
it. You
as
get a lot.
expensive as the game.
Almost,
But it
yeah.
also does kind of provide almost as much as the base game, but you still
Yeah.
need that base game to play. So that's the only bummer is the price point on that one. But Invasion,
It's still good.
it just gives you a ton of stuff. So
Yeah.
we love that. And with that, let's jump over to number 7. You got it. All right, continuing right on with number 7, we've got, I was going to say Valhalla, but that wasn't even near Scandinavia.
You were Scottish.
I was
Kind
very
of,
Scottish.
yeah.
I was in the north
Valhalla.
of the UK, which is
Like so high north, you're in Denmark.
yeah, so high there. Valhalla was the expansion for Champions of Midgard.
I feel like this is one of the most common. Like, what's an essential expansion? Most people I see it, I feel say Valhalla. Yeah,
Yes.
which is fair.
Yeah, so the base Champions of Midgard, your Vikings is a worker. It's really a hybrid game. It's a worker placement dice chucker game.
Yeah.
You use your workers to get dice to chuck those dice and fight monsters. Very Amerithrash, very Euro blended together. Probably the best example of a hybrid Amerithrash Euro game. It had a bit of a hole to it.
A bit, yeah.
So you are Vikings. You want to go off and die in glory and fighting monsters, and you will do that.
Sing
in
the praise
Champions
of
Midgard.
Valhalla.
Saying all praise due to Valhalla. And so that's the thing is you think, like, as you're playing the base game, you're like, oh, my Vikings die fighting these monsters, and they must be up in Valhalla. Where do I put my workers next round? And that was it. And that was it. And so Valhalla gives your Vikings an ultimate purpose.
Yes,
they
it
may
does.
die in glorious battle, but if they do, you get a little token representing that type of warrior.
Yeah.
You know, if it's the sword
Axeman
folks,
or
the
a
axe
spear
folk.
guy. Yeah.
And you can then spend those tokens in Valhalla to get access to endgame scoring, these kind of, these big, there's only like 3 of them in a game, these big monster card things. You can get different types of warriors. You can get berserkers.
And shield maidens,
and
yeah.
shield maidens and stuff. And so it's like, now them dying is an incredibly useful
Beneficial.
thing. So
you almost want them to
Sometimes you
die.
do.
Sometimes you're like, because you can decide to be like, I'm gonna kill this one because you need
Yeah.
you need
You
an
choose who
extra
gets
you
the
need an
fall.
extra axeman to go up here and get this new dragon card or whatever. You
Now
know,
it
it's
adds
like
this fun level of like, oh, normally I'm fighting this monster, I lost my people. Oh, that's kind of a bummer.
And then you
Next
gotta
round I have
work to get those people
replenish.
back, and
you
yeah.
still have to do that, but you're like, now I can strategically
Yeah.
lose. And like, then they get all the praise in Valhalla. They die in glorious battle, and it's like what it should be. So it just fits the game so
Yeah.
well. The Valhalla expansion is incredibly just fitting for that game. So much to the point, it's like I do not want to play a Chance in Midgard without it.
I don't think I'd want to either. Yeah,
No,
I
man,
would,
it's
but it's
so
like
fun.
it's so
just fits
much
its
better with
theme
Valhalla.
so perfectly.
It does, and that's the thing is it really like there's a
Like, I
couple.
can't picture it without Valhalla.
Yeah, there's a couple examples of this. We'll get to them later, but it really felt like it completed the game. The game was 80% done, and this just goes and just completes it. And it's just like the game was great otherwise, but it's like this just goes bam, completes it, and you're like, oh, now we're complete. Now we're and then you have like the Dark Mountains expansion, which does not
really
complete the
cool
game,
and
but is a
so-
really fun addition to it. And
Actually, everyone like kind of say like, oh, it's okay. I'm like, I actually really like it.
like it a
'cause
lot,
it offers
too.
some interesting stuff, but Valhalla is truly essential.
yes, exactly. That's the difference. Is like
you
Dark
only get
Mountains is
one-
great. Valhalla is like you really
Yeah.
should get it. Like, it's really incredible. If you like Champions of Midgard, particularly if you haven't played it, try it as soon as you can.
Give it a go, babe.
Give it a go.
Anyway, so Valhalla is the expansion that completes Champions of Midgard, and it is good enough for our number 7.
Yeah, it's really good. Valhalla's great.
Let's go ahead and get into number 6.
Some expansions, Mike, change everything.
Delicious.
Some expansions just kind of add more stuff.
Yeah.
And this is one of those expansions.
That's all I want.
And that's all you want. And this is Suburbia Inc. for Suburbia.
it's so
Suburbia
good.
Inc. is so good. It mostly just adds new stuff. There's slightly rule changes, but for the most part, it's just more tiles, and then you have these border tiles. Suburbia is a game, a city building game that's beautiful. I don't care what anybody says. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. And now I'm talking about the collector's edition, which is up there. But I'm talking about base one is beautiful. Fight me in the comments. It's my favorite thing to do. Is challenge people to battles.
You challenge people to fights.
I know. But nonetheless, Suburbia is a city building game where you're putting out these hexes, and like a lot of city building games, you want to put certain hexes next to other things, and putting this next to this gives you more income. Putting this next to this gives you more reputation, but loses some income. All this different kind of stuff. Really, really great game. One of my favorite games of all time. Love Suburbia. And Suburbia Inc. This was one of the first expansions I ever played. And the first time I played Suburbia,
didn't realize there was an expansion.
I did not know that Suburbia Inc. was an expansion. I played it with our cousin Sarah and some of her friends, and we just played it this way. And then we got it, and then I was like, I was literally like, where are the borders? I was like, no, it had these really cool borders. And turns out that was in an expansion. We had no idea at the time.
So we immediately went to sort of like, we need to find this thing.
But now it's just more tiles. It's just more variety, and then these cool borders.
Those challenges too.
Yes, and the bonuses
and challenges. A couple of bonuses that everyone can achieve potentially throughout the game, and you know that they're coming at the end of the A stack and the B stack. So it's just like it just gives you more tiles,
more stuff,
a little
it's just
more
great.
things, more variety.
Yeah, more variety. It's like now there's so many tiles in the game, even with just those two, that it's like if you're playing like a 2-player game, you're not even gonna get through half the tiles. So it's like you really don't know what's gonna come up, you know, and you definitely don't know the order. And Suburbia Inc. is just one of those things that adds just more stuff, but just adds so much more to the game.
It's very easy to implement.
Game. And if
you could easily not say it exists, and people would
obviously people would have no idea. Yeah, it's like
it does not complicate the game.
It's just it's an addition to one of my favorite games, one of our favorite games, and this was one that should always just be there because as far as we knew when we first played it, it was always there. So Suburbia Inc. is really, really great. And you should try it out if you haven't. It's wonderful. That is our number 6, Suburbia Inc. Love it, love it, love it. Oh, it's gorgeous. Yeah. Deal with it. 5. Let's go to 5 now.
Yep.
This one's for you.
This
one's for Mike.
Nick doesn't care about this.
No, I do. I love this expansion, but you definitely like it more than I do.
You know why?
Why?
Because I'm proud. Proud of who I am.
Who you are.
And that is a Norwegian. I'm a proud Norwegian.
We are Norwegian. That's true.
And as a Norwegian, I had to get the Norwegians expansion for Feast for Odin. Yeah, we're very white.
We're very white.
As Scandinavian as you can get.
Yeah.
The Norwegians expansion for Feast for Odin, already a huge game.
Yeah.
They said like, let's tweak it. Let's massage it a little. Let's play with it a little. So the Norwegians expansion does.
Ube's just rolling out dough. Just like,
does a few different things that are.
It's pretty different.
Minor and massive at the same time.
It's weird because the mechanics of the game are exactly the same.
Exactly the same. But they give you a lot more stuff to.
But I wouldn't say this adds just more stuff.
No,
right? Because it changes stuff.
Yes, it does. So
let Mike
the Norwegians expansion, basically the main thing it does is it reworks the central action board.
Yes, there's a whole nother one. Yeah,
it massages it, it changes it. There's a lot of stuff that are still present from the base game. But this one does a couple things. One, if you're playing 2-player, you flip the board to something different. There's a 2-player, I think 2 and 3-player maybe, side of the board. So it's more optimized for a smaller player count,
it does
which is fantastic.
Greatly increase the game at 2 players. It was already good 2 players, but it makes it way better. It
tightens it up a little bit. It gives you some of that intrigue and that stress over getting the right spaces and stuff that you want to see in a worker placement game. The other things it does is any area of the game that was sort of like it's a fine direction to go. if you're playing the base game, like not a unworkable strategy, but
This is me patching up the house.
patching it up.
This is me
All right, you
patching
got a
it up.
small leak in the roof.
Patching it up.
Patch it up, make it a strong part of that house. So, for instance, like things like farming and animals were in the base game.
Yeah.
They weren't a huge thing, but now there's a lot of ways to get access to really good scoring through kind of running a farm and having animals and stuff like that. So it's like every area that was kind of, okay, it's like now really interesting and seems very viable. Whereas in the base game, I'd always kind of try to do like whaling and pillaging and stuff because it seems like it had higher access to points. Now Nick can I'm gonna get like 1,000 pigs.
Yeah.
Just gonna have raised pigs everywhere.
Yeah,
You know? And so there's just
my
like,
goal.
yeah, there's just different areas of the game that now are just as interesting and high level as the rest of the game. So now you have nice, smooth slab of concrete.
Yeah.
There's a couple cobblestones in there before.
Yeah, for me, the thing that changes that really makes the expansion the best is there's now a 5th column. So basically, Feast for Odin, you have 4 columns, and if you go in the first column, it only takes 1 work. If you go in the second column, it takes 2, 3, and then
the
4.
actions get better, but you gotta pay more.
They actually get better. So if you want to go to the 4th column, it's like you are blowing through a lot of your workers. You only have so many, especially in the early half of the game. But now there's a 5th column, and the 5th column only takes 1 or 2 workers. And you're like, that's really cool. And they are very interesting actions that are kind of like
actions, not the best, not the worst.
But the difference is if you ever go to that 5th column, your whole round is done.
Yes.
So if you go to the 5th column halfway through your round, you can't place any more of your workers. So it's always the last thing you do. But a lot of times in the game, you end up with like 1 worker left over. And you're kind of like, I could go to one of these lesser actions.
not a great
And
action.
it honestly, there's no bad action. So you're like, okay, this is fine. But now you have this like bevy of really cool actions to do, and it's going to end your round, but you're probably going to end your round anyway.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And then now also everyone has a specific longhouse that you get.
Yep.
That's really that might push you towards a different
of, like player asymmetry, just a little bit.
a little bit. You're like, oh, you know what? This one wants horses, so you know what? I'm gonna go horses
for
today.
horses.
You know, it's like, and then there's it's
The
just
last thing is like there's cards you can get. You can play down cards like occupation
Yes.
cards.
This is huge.
That are like in the base game, they're just hard to play.
Yeah.
Because if you want to play one down, there's certain action spaces that allow you to do that, but then usually it's like you got to play 4 workers down into one of the 4 worker column spaces to play a card. And it was like, I'm not going to pay that many workers to play this card.
Yeah.
There's a lot more access to playing, ditching cards for points,
Yeah,
and things
now
like
you can
that.
just-
So now the cards,
instead of playing a card, you can just ditch a card and get points. And I think the highest one is 4, which is a decent amount of points.
kind of decreases as the game
But the
goes.
difference for me is it's like a lot of times you'll get cards throughout the game, but like you're going for a strategy.
already in
And then
a
if you
direction.
get this card that has nothing to do with your strategy, you're like, well, sometimes I'll have points. You're like, oh, I'll pay it for the points. But now you can just ditch it and get points instead, and it's so much nicer. And so
Yeah, so now I'm like, oh, now I'm interested in the cards. Normally I was like, I'm just going to ignore them.
it's a really good expansion.
Yeah, it's really good. Anyway, enough about Norwegians. I'm talking
It's
a lot
Mike's
about
favorite
it 'cause it's
game,
my
yeah.
favorite game, and it's
So-
like an essential expansion to my favorite game. Hello.
Yeah.
I like it quite a lot.
Yeah.
So anyway, that is Norwegians, the expansion for A Feast for Odin. A big game that's just now is even better. It wasn't. They didn't have weak points before, but now it's just got all strong.
I know they're going to expand it more, and I'm just like, oh god,
Yeah.
I'm so
I don't
excited
care.
and so
I'll go all in.
scared.
It doesn't need it. I don't want it. Anyway, that is our number 5. Let's go ahead and jump into number 4. Essential. Talking about definition of essential.
Mikey is dead on about that.
Essential.
It's
Don't
I
you-
think the
don't
game is fine without
don't
it.
you dare play it without this. Do
You
not.
shouldn't, because it's a cheap expansion, because it's very small and it's very good. And that is Prelude for Terraforming Mars
Get
is
at
our
me,
number
Prelude.
4. Prelude is great. Prelude is a small expansion that really changes stuff a
Do
lot.
not play it without it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
It is good.
You're
Terraforming Mars,
just adding a half hour to your game for no reason.
Terraforming Mars is a big engine building game. Most of you are probably relatively aware of it. It's a good game, really great game. I like the base game alone, but Prelude, what it does is it essentially jump starts your game. So it
great
kind of,
idea.
it almost, I know it really is. I kind of wish a lot of,
Engine builder with a jump start to it. Like freaking genius.
yeah, it's nice.
Get good right away.
Well, and that's the thing is like it kind of starts you off like I would say, like kind of starts you off like in round 3 instead of round 1 because you have some production, you have some strategy things to go for,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, this Prelude card gives me like 2 plant production.
Okay.
Sweet. It probably would have taken you a couple turns to get some plant production going
you have
or
to get the
steel production or
cards,
whatever.
yeah.
But it's like now it just starts you off. You're already moving. You're not having to start to stop and then go, Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Let's get going.
It just
Let's get
gets
going.
the
Now
engine-
you're already moving.
It's the
And
equivalent
then you can
of
move
like
faster.
a cold day and you leave the car running in the driveway for a couple minutes before you hop in. You got to de-ice the
It's still
shield.
cold. Yeah, you still got to make stuff happen, but you get a jump start, and it's a tiny little expansion. It's like $15-20. It's
just some cards.
so worth it because of the fact that you get so many benefits from that little jump start. It is so incredible.
Explain quite how much it improved the game for me.
Yeah.
I already liked it, and I played that, and I was just like, holy crap, how did we ever convince ourselves to play this without this?
I'm not quite that extreme, but
Oh, yeah, it's that extreme.
it's really good though. Prelude is really, I mean, this is one of those games that I really think if you're getting Terraforming Mars for the first time, just get Prelude.
There's lots of expansions. They're all fine. Prelude is the one.
Yeah.
It is absolutely the one. It's the
100%.
cheapest one. It's the best one.
Yeah.
It is the one.
Yeah, it's the simplest one, and it's like, just get it, because here's the thing, you can always just not play with Prelude if you want a longer game, but it's like, otherwise, just if you're gonna get it, just get Prelude. It's not that much more money to tack on. It's less than for the other ones, for sure.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really change the game at all. It just starts you off on a better foot.
Yeah.
And it's nice. It also starts you off on a different foot than everyone else. And it's just like, it's such a small package that packs a massive punch. Prelude's great. Get it. It's wonderful. That's number 4. Let's go to number 3.
Yeah. Number 3 is an interesting thing because it kind of, for me, seems to fall into the evolution climate category, where it's sort of the game now, to a degree. But it is Viticulture Tuscany. The Tuscany,
It's the greatest
which
game
is
ever
like
made.
now.
One could say
now
Viticulture is the greatest game ever made. I say that.
I don't know about that. Maybe
say
top
that.
2, but it's the Tuscany. It's like just hard to define it because like there's Viticulture, the Viticulture with Tuscany, all these different modules. The Viticulture Essentials Edition. Now there's Viticulture Tuscany Essentials Edition. So it's like,
So basically, okay,
it's
so
sort
there's
of the latest
Viticulture.
evolution, and probably final evolution of Viticulture.
God, I hope this is the final
It's
evolution of
got-
Viticulture.
They went big, pared it down, added a few more. Now we're done.
Yeah. So
And
it's
that's where
Viticulture.
we're talking about Tuscany, the Tuscany expansion. the
Yeah,
essential-
so Viticulture Second Edition wasn't even the first. The Second Edition had
Yes.
Tuscany. It's really big, giant expansion that had a whole bunch of different stuff, and a lot of those things really should have just been in the base game. So they came with Viticulture Essential Edition,
Yes.
and parts of Tuscany were just in the base game now.
Yeah,
and that's
like
the
the
game that
Grande
everyone
Worker
can
or
buy
something
now.
like that,
Yeah, there's like the Grande Worker was in Second Edition. Again, it's
That's
very
what I mean.
confusing.
And,
Yeah, but now there's like the Mamas and Papas, which are like, again, kind of like a
Yes.
little bit of a jump start, kind of like Prelude. Those are just
nice.
in the base game now. There's a couple of things that are just in the base game now. And then they came out with Tuscany Essentials Edition, which is just the rest of stuff from Tuscany.
But the stuff that was really,
Because it wasn't
what
even
we
all of it.
understand was, like,
It's
worth
really
sticking
confusing.
around.
Whether you're playing just straight up Viticulture Second Edition or you're playing the Essential Edition, Tuscany, both ways, is
the
incredible.
main difference is in Essentials Edition Viticulture, there's 2 seasons. There's like a spring and a
Yes.
fall.
Spring and winter, yeah.
Spring, summer, fall, winter. There's 2 halves of the
Yes.
year. Now in Tuscany, you have each season is separate.
Yes.
And so you have your workers that are for the year, which is around, and you choose, I'm going to skip and not do anything in spring, or do all my stuff in spring, or whatever. So it just stretches out the game a little bit, and all the things that are in the Essential Edition, all those spaces are still present.
Yeah.
Then they add just a few more. Then they also add a little bit of area control off to the side. They
little
give
bit,
you in-game bonuses as well, which I've grown to like more and more, actually.
I actually have. I usually really not like it.
Yeah, and then they have the option of adding additional structures that are
Yes.
based off these orange
Which
cards.
I'm really liking more and more every time we play it.
Yeah, and the thing I love is the board is 2-sided. If you don't want to give them all that, you can flip over and not have the structures.
Yeah.
But have everything else.
Yes.
And then you can add these structures, which can go onto your fields, or you have an area for just 2 structures on their own that will give you just sort of passive bonuses.
Another worker placement
Another
spot for
worker
just
placement
you.
spot. I think just one-time bonuses maybe, and you always get a victory point for building them. So it's just
great. And then there's
adds a
specialty
lot.
workers now, and you choose
Yes.
2 special workers that everyone has access to,
Nice.
and they're
There's
just
a lot of
like,
stuff you can kind of add in or not add in if you wish.
it's just, if you like Viticulture, it just takes the game and just makes it better. It just does. And the game on its own, I
just
thought
gives you a little bit more.
was already my favorite game before Tuscany, and then Tuscany just cemented it. It's just like, it's so, again, it's like to the point where it's like, I don't want to play without Tuscany if I can help it. I have, like recently I played it without Tuscany, and it was still great, and I still loved it with every ounce of my being. But with Tuscany, just for the board alone, it's just so much fun. And it's just like, and honestly, at this point, I would probably just teach new people with Tuscany. I probably wouldn't.
Like, viticulture is already going to be a bit of a tough teach.
Yes.
You might as well just add
like, I'm not teaching it to gateway level people anyway, because it's too much. So it's like, if you're learning viticulture, you're probably at least a somewhat seasoned gamer, at least a little bit. Yeah. And you can probably handle Tuscany, because one thing I like about viticulture in general is the worker placement spots and the actions you're taking are very intuitive. Like, oh yeah, I need to go here to grab vine cards. Then I go here to plant my vine cards. Then I go here to harvest the grapes. Then I go here to squish the grapes into juice and move them to wine. It makes sense.
Of a year really more clear.
Yeah.
And I think it helps people wrap their head around, I need to do A to B to C to D.
Yeah.
And you see that kind of reflected in the progression of the year.
It's really good. I love Tuscany. We both do. It's just the best way to play viticulture, and viticulture is already the best way to play.
Anytime you hear us talking about viticulture and we're talking Tuscany.
Oh yeah, it's always
because it is now viticulture.
It is.
We would play the essentials.
Yeah, but I like it just fine. But
you gotta play Tuscany.
You'll play Tuscany. Anyways, that's number 3. Viticulture with Tuscany is such a good expansion. So good. All right, let's get into. We're getting out there. Let's get number 2.
We've already blown through kind of a lot of the biggies.
I know, a lot of big people were probably expecting.
What's number 2?
Number 2 and number 1 are probably they're not big expansions. One. Number 2.
I think we've named a lot of the ones that people would think of.
Yeah.
Not that people don't know these ones, but you should if you don't. So
indeed. So the number 2 is Leviathan expansion for Abyss. Abyss is one of our favorite games. This is an expansion that I don't know if it's readily available in the U.S. yet. It's been trying to get to the U.S. for a while now.
I think it's just now getting there, or is soon.
Yeah.
I think.
So sorry if it's not available when this comes out. We got sent a French version of it that we then had to translate ourselves because we wanted it so badly. So
it's been a slog, but
yeah, so cool. we've made it work. But nonetheless, the Leviathan expansion for Abyss is great. And this is an example of kind of like Valhalla we talked about, where it's like the game was 80% complete, 75% complete. This just goes and completes the game. And basically, Abyss is a game where it's the most beautiful game ever in existence. It's my favorite art in any game ever.
Cool.
So gorgeous. But it's a game that's really a set collection game that's more about like influence and intrigue than it is about like. It just looks kind of like it's more of like a battle-y kind of game, and it's not at all.
Or something with like people fighting underwater.
But basically, you're trying to collect sets to get these different lords that give you influence points in the different. It's like the Senate in Lord of the Rings, not Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. Yeah. It's just very political and da-da-da-da. But nonetheless, there's a part where you're drawing out these cards and trying to get essentially allies for the Squid Clan and for the Crab Clan. Yeah,
politicians.
And in this deck, there are monster cards. And if a monster card comes up, you would just look at this little monster track, which just had benefits on it. You go like, do I fight the monster or not? Yes, I fight the monster. Okay, now I get this benefit, and that was it.
And or if you don't, the benefit was the tracker would slide down. So the next time a monster comes up, the benefit's a little bit better, which may or may not come up on your turn.
Which definitely probably won't. And so it's one of those things where it's like, that was it. And you're like, but there's these big monsters. Like, and you just go, I fight it. Okay, now I get 2 pearls. And that's it.
Good.
And it was it. And it always felt like this is a weird part of the game. Like, this feels like something here's missing. Well, turns out, Bruno Katuki, best designer ever, Bruno Katala, decided to make the Leviathan expansion, which now means whenever you draw a monster out, there are a whole Leviathan track where there's all these different Leviathans that you can then fight. And you can fight and you get even bigger benefits. And man, oh man, does it complete that game. Yeah. It just feels so right. And it feels like, man, I feel like this should have just been in here all the time. And I bet you later on, if they ever reprint the game, they might just add it in there because it completes the game.
And it
just does.
Doesn't complicate it in any way. Because like the battling is really simple. It's like you have to choose a crab, like your little influence cards.
Because crabs are the soldier
clan. You have to choose a crab, and then you have the option of adding one other. Or excuse me, you can always do a crab, and then you have to sometimes use a specific other type. And you can do that to kind of give you a starting baseline for how much attack you'll do, then you roll a die.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. It's very simple, but you can get these things. You can wound the Leviathan, kill the Leviathan to get these bonuses and stuff. If they escape, you get hurt.
Also, there's a benefit at the end of the game for killing the most Leviathans, you know, and it's not that big, but it's just it's more great art, which is great. But then on top of that, it just
a few more politicians.
The one part of the game that felt like this is lacking, kind of like in Champions of Midgard. You're like, man, this part feels lacking, and it just went bam and completed it, and ooh, it's good.
So
yeah.
good. And Leviathan. It keeps a simple game simple. It's still simple, but it feels a little bit more like cool, and we're underwater, we're fighting stuff, and it just makes it deepens the world.
Yeah.
An already deep world because they're underwater. And yeah, it makes it so fun. It's super cool, and Sir Matthew Jude's giving us an English copy, so we don't have to be like, what does that say again in French? We're like, I think it's.
But hopefully it's coming to the U.S. soon. We've been asking about it for a couple of years now. Like, hey, when does this come to the U.S.?
It's been tied up in like production rights.
Yeah, it's this whole thing. So, but nonetheless, it's really great. If you have a chance to try it, please give it a shot. It's really, really great. But that is our number 2 Leviathan expansion for the Abyss. It's so good. But now let's go on to number 1. Oh, if you know us, you probably know what it is, but...
Oh, it's so good.
Let's go. Let's do it. Nothing does more with less, Mike.
There's nothing that does more with less. Invasion gives you a lot.
Yes.
Prelude gives you a little.
Yeah.
Both do a lot. This gives you even less. It gives you so much.
Yes.
This is for a criminally under-talked about game.
Yep.
And it's a criminally under-talked about expansion because it's just a small deck of cards.
Yeah.
It is the Backstage expansion for Shakespeare.
Yep.
Shakespeare is a fantastic game. It's a worker placement, action selection, whatever you want to call it, game where you are trying to rehearse up a play in 6 days before you put it in front of the queen because you want to have the most prestigious play, and then the queen chooses yours to go on the stage, right?
Yep.
So the Backstage, just with so little, it doubles the game. It doubles the size of the game.
It really does. It really does.
Crazy. So, in Shakespeare, the most brilliant thing about it is you have upwards of 5 actions you can do. But you don't want to take all your actions because if you do, you're going to go last, and next turn you're going to have less things you can do.
Yeah.
So there is this tight bidding system where you're saying like
incredibly difficult.
I have 5. I'm only going to do 3 actions, and you all do a secret bid. Then you reveal whoever has the least actions that they're doing that turn goes first, which means you get first and best access to set pieces, costumes, characters, all sorts of things. So it's really important to go first. But the problem is,
you're doing
then
less
I'm like,
stuff.
I got these 3 actions that are just sitting there.
Yeah.
So Backstage says, oh, you can do some business. You can do some business on the side. So now, whatever I bid with, I still do normally.
Yep.
Everything you do not use can be used on the Backstage cards.
Oh, it's amazing.
Which give you access to like hatters and different types of workers and things. There's set pieces and things that get ditched throughout the game, and you can go and like pick through the trash.
You're a rag picker. You're like, ooh, I can wear this.
You're a rag picker.
I can wear this.
So now it becomes even more exciting to choose the bidding because there might be a lot of really cool stuff in the Backstage that I want to do. So I might like leave more actions deliberately so I can do more stuff in the Backstage.
Yeah.
And you choose when you do stuff kind of on the front of house and when you do things in the back. And so it doubles the size of the game and makes that bidding system even a little more interesting. And it doesn't just make the game wide open. It's still very hard to get stuff accomplished, but you have more options.
Yes. It really is freaking incredible. It's so good. It's an easy number 1 for us.
It's a pack this small.
It's a tiny little deck of cards. And we talk about like, and down in the comments, let us know if there's any other games like this. Like, what are some games where the expansion is small but packs a massive punch? And this is that game that is so small and goes bam and just blows the door off.
It's brilliant.
Because it's like, man, the game is so on its own without the expansion is so tight and so brutal because of the fact that you need to do so much to get your play ready. Yeah. But you cannot use that many actions because you'll go last. And there's going to be no costumes left. There's going to be no set pieces left. There's going to be no good people. You're going to choose a crappy extra or something like that. And this makes it, you know what? I'm only going to do 2 actions because it makes it worth it to do it. And it's just like, Oh gosh, it's
And
amazing.
the cool thing is they actually have some access. You get some extra characters.
You do get extra characters,
which are cool because normally a character needs 3 costume pieces to participate in a dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
They won't go on until they're fully dressed.
Yeah.
Now it gives you a few different characters that only need 2 costume pieces, and they have like a
But they don't rehearse.
They don't rehearse, and they give you like this other kind of bonus. And so they're a little easier to dress.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're a little bit cheaper and stuff. So now you get a little bit more there, but really it is about all those things you can do with those actions that you don't.
It's such a
choose to
smart
use.
idea. It's like
So good.
You're purposely limiting yourself,
The other
and
thing
that's a
is-
fine
I keep
mechanic.
forgetting
It's like
how cool.
you're purposely limiting yourself, which is a fine mechanic. Being like that's a lot of games are like this is it's a hard decision you're gonna have to make.
Yeah.
You have to limit yourself. But now it's like you're limiting yourself, but you can still do something with all that crap that you're limiting, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it's so good.
The cool thing is also you might have 3 actions that you leave for the backstage.
Yeah.
Now certain cards, like well, if you put 1 disc there, you get this.
You get this.
If you put 2 discs there, you get this. If you get 3, you get this crazy thing. And so it's like,
So you
well,
can
do I wanna
blow
do-
all your actions on one thing.
Do I want to do 1 great thing or 3 small things? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it's so cool. Like that idea, it just does so many interesting things.
It's really good.
It's so
Good job, Shakespeare.
It's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, it's so good.
I think we happened upon it on accident.
I remember seeing it
and being like,
no, we
what
saw
the
it.
hell
We
is
saw it at
that?
a game store.
Yeah, and I
we
was
saw
like-
it in a Great Escape game in Sacramento, California.
Yeah,
Go to Great Escape
great
Games.
store, great store.
We saw it in their
was like-
little small game area. We saw it and we were like, "Is that an expansion for Shakespeare?" Or we thought
What
it
if
was.
we didn't stop to think about it?
Yeah,
What if we didn't see it? Oh.
it's really good. Sorry, we'll stop talking about it. It's incredible. Also, just play Shakespeare. It's an incredible game. With it, without it, it's great. But Backstage, it is absolute.
Don't
And
play
again, it's
without
like $15. It's a tiny little expansion. It is so incredible. It takes a great game and makes it so much better. That is our number 1, the Backstage expansion for Shakespeare, to go along with all of these different expansions. And there are a lot. There's a lot of expansions.
We have on this list right here, I'm not going to show you the front, like literally 10, 12 more that we could just think of in the moment. So we're going to be doing more.
I'm sure another
We'll do,
list. Yeah.
we'll do a more top 10 more great expansions. And I'm guaranteeing we missed something.
Oh, for sure. People, I'm sure,
This
are
isn't
already
all-
typing
these
comments.
are all the great expansions down here. There's definitely some that we are missing. So I want to know in the meantime, before we do another list, what are your favorite expansions? What are the most essential expansions? You ain't playing this game without that expansion. It's just not going to happen. Put those in the comments below, whether or not you agree with our list or not. What did we miss? What did we absolutely nail? Obviously, all 10 of ours are the best.
Obviously.
They're just our opinions. So put yours in the comments below. While you're at it, please give this video a thumbs up.
Do it.
If you didn't like it, give it a thumb down.
I don't care.
Whatever,
Still
it's
helps
all
the
good.
algorithm, baby.
Just keep it super chill in the comments. That's all we ask for. And please, if you can, share this around with your friends. Give it a share on Facebook, Reddit, wherever you give shares to things.
I don't know how social media works.
WhatsApp. I don't know what people do.
Put it on LinkedIn.
Put it on TikTok. We'll just dance or something. Whatever. Just share it around to all your friends if you like it to get that discussion going. We love seeing everyone discuss their preferences in games because that's how we always. Someone will name something. I'm like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
You know,
Everything
it's like that's the
starts,
coolest part about this. So please always engage in the conversation. And if we're not missing anything else, that's gonna be it for us, folks.
Yeah, indeed. We'll see y'all later.
We will see you in another top 10 to be named soon. Until next time, I've been Mike.
I'm Nick.
We're the Brothers Murph, and we outie. Bye. 5,000. Subscribe.